Same. There's nothing interesting on my phone.
How do you think other people deal with this?
Then why don't we go out?
Like, go around and ask people?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright.
To find out how our peers and teachers deal with boredom,
We decided to explore MCI.
And question the people there regarding boredom.
Specifically, we were interested in their habit of
Using technology to relieve boredom.
We wanted to answer the burning question we all had. To what extent does relieving boredom through technology affect us? Boredom is experienced by everyone, and when we asked students and teachers at MCI, they defined boredom as
basically when you have nothing to do.
You have nothing else to do anything. You have nothing to do.
Having anything to do.
You have, I guess, nothing to do.
Just being unoccupied.
However, even when there's a lot happening around us, some of us are still bored. For example, during the school carnival, although there was a lot of excitement all around, some said that they were still bored. How bored are you? How bored are you?
I'm pretty bored.
And we often see boredom as a negative, thus we never let ourselves be bored.
Do you ever purposefully let yourself be bored?
No, because you can die of boredom. Why would you want to be bored?
No, what the fuck? Who the fuck does that?
Clearly, teens classify boredom as a negative aspect of their lives, which is why they crave entertainment to relieve that boredom. And one way they do this is through the use of technology.
What do you usually do to relieve your boredom?
Go on my phone, watch YouTube.
Go on my phone.
Play video games.
Usually go on social media. I scroll through Instagram, nonsense like for like a good 2 hours.
The crave for entertainment is nothing new. In the past, kings and queens used fools and musicians to entertain themselves. And now, in modern times, the fools are on TV and the musicians are in our ears. The one major difference between now and then is how quickly we're entertained. Back then, entertainment used to be scheduled events such as live concerts and live plays. Both required the physical presence of the audience at the place of entertainment, whereas now everything is documented and can be accessed instantaneously. Don't know something? Google it. Bored? Watch YouTube. But this type of behavior doesn't come consequence-free. The more attention we pay to our entertainment, the less attention we pay to ourselves. Putting away the distractions allow us to see the world around us more clearly. The choice to lock eyes with our screens makes us crave them even more. We immerse ourselves in others' imagination rather than thinking for ourselves. We've become accustomed to instantaneous entertainment, and our need for stimuli is making us worship our technology. However, the previous generation doesn't seem to have this problem. They have gone through a time before instantaneous entertainment was so widely available. As a result, they have a higher tolerance for boredom than we do. They lived in a time when tapping on a little screen didn't relieve boredom, so they grew up occupying their time by investing in something strange called hobbies. Unlike the students we interviewed, teachers were far more accepting of boredom. In fact, they classified it as peace and relaxation.
And you're a almost 40-year-old woman with 2 kids. We don't classify it as boring. We classify it as peace.
Call that relaxation, and I enjoy it.
Adults seem to have a different take on boredom because of how busy their lives are. Students are busy as well, but most of us don't have to worry about paying bills or putting food on the table. When asked what they'll do if they were in the shoes of a teenager, adults tend to say that they'll invest their free time in hobbies rather than in entertainment.
You told me that I never had to work again, and I would just have to find things to do all day, and all my food and everything would be taken care of. That would be the easiest choice I'd have ever made in my life. I would just pursue things. I would just learn how to speak a language. I'd learn how to play an instrument. I'd practice archery more. I'd do jiu-jitsu more.
Are we overreacting? Does relieving boredom through entertainment bad, or is it just a normal part of life that doesn't require much attention? Well, everyone does different things to avoid boredom, but teenagers especially tend to go rather far to do so. YouTubers like PewDiePie are popular because of this, as they're able to cater to our desire to avoid boredom. Do we really need to see some random white guy react to memes? Well, apparently we do. But how far will we really go to relieve our boredom? Studies seem to say that people would rather feel physical pain than be bored. An experiment conducted by Harvard observed the actions of participants who were left to wait alone in a room. Prior to entering the room, they experienced a shock from a joy buzzer, and when given the opportunity to re-experience the shock, they refused. However, just after an average of 5 minutes of waiting, they voluntarily used the joy buzzer to shock themselves. In summary, no one wants to be bored. Yet, research suggests that letting ourselves be bored can have positive impacts on us. According to a study conducted by the Virginia universities, boredom leads to creativity. The experiment consisted of a group of students. Half of them were asked to read a phone book for 15 minutes, while the rest were asked to occupy their time with their phones. Afterwards, the students were individually placed in a room and given a cup. They were asked to creatively use their cups in any way possible. The results were that students who had read the boring phone book were more creative with their solutions than those who were on their phones. This study indicates that boredom can lead to creativity, but is this really true? To test this theory out, we decided to perform the experiment ourselves. We gathered 2 students and gave one of them the daunting task of reading a boring book, Hamlet, while the second student was asked to occupy his time with his phone. After 5 minutes, we gave each of the students an empty plastic water bottle and told them to play with it in a creative way. The student who performed the boring task of reading Hamlet came up with creative ways to play with the bottle. The second student who occupied his time with his phone couldn't even go past the act of pretending to drink from the bottle.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
As shown, boredom tends to lead to creativity, and the older generation knows of this all too well, but only a small fraction of our current generation understands this.
So what are some positive impacts of being bored?
Positive impact of being bored. I think people are a lot more creative. You think and imagine things a lot more when you are away from phones, away from all that kind of stuff, and just allowing your brain to wander and think about things.
Yeah, I think it allows for great thinking. I think it allows for finding alternative ways or looking at being creative, doing something different. I think a lot can come out of being bored, and I don't think kids today are bored enough.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I read an article like last month about how it boosts your creativity because humans naturally, like millions of years ago, used to be bored a lot, and then your brain was just wondering, giving more ideas, and that's apparently very good.
How do you relieve your boredom?
Well, again, I don't get bored, so I haven't had to relieve my boredom. But as a teenager, yep, I was bored. Oh, it's so boring. Oh my God, this is so boring. You know, I remember being that kind of kid, and of course kids get like that. Not realizing that sometimes that boredom is good for you. Like some kids who live on farms and stuff like that have to go and play out in the fields and make their games and make their entertainment, and then it, you know, forces them to think in a different ways. Instead of like some of our kids now with their media and their games, like playing their games, you know, because they can't for a moment be quiet in their head with their thoughts and be bored.
Therefore, people instinctively pull out their phones while waiting in lines, sitting at restaurants, stopped at a traffic light, and even while sitting on a toilet. Boredom occurs when our attention isn't focused on anything in particular. Thus, our minds wander, and according to scientific research, this wandering is crucial to being creative and assessing our current life to set goals for the future. We're trying to swipe and scroll the boredom away, and by doing that, we're refusing to let our minds wander. Now, that doesn't mean we should abandon technology and revert to reading books only, because that too has consequences of its own. Regardless, we need to learn to control our technology and not be controlled by it. We need to rise above our habit of using instantaneous entertainment to relieve our boredom, and start to pay attention to how our mind wanders in the absence of stimuli. Boredom acts as a push that motivates us to set goals and be creative. Therefore, the choice is simple. We need to stop worshipping technology and rise up onto our feet and put away the distractions and walk away with nothing but our thoughts to keep us company. The next time we wait in line or sit in a bus, we need to resist the urge to pull out our phones and instead choose to be entertained by our own thoughts. Through the research and interviews we conducted, we learned that others deal with boredom in different ways, from YouTube to social media to games, but ultimately everyone uses technology to relieve their boredom. This has a negative effect on us, because by doing so, we avoid boredom and never give our minds the chance to relax, unwind, and think freely. As a result, we lose those chances to be creative and plan for the long term. Instead, we exchange those opportunities for short-lived joy we get from seeing a new post on our favorite platform. So how much does using technology to relieve boredom affect us? Quite a lot, and not in a good way. However, the negatives can be easily dealt with if we choose to do so. Although it would be great if we could practice what we preach, if we could change our way of life, if we could actually change the way we think. But inevitably, we always seem to mysteriously find our phones back in our hands. I wonder how many people watch this without looking at their phones.